It's 7 o'clock. Got to dust off that gavel, eh? Yes, good. Mr. Clerk, it's 7 o'clock. I'll call this meeting to order. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda with the added items? Moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Mayor Daw. Any comments or questions on the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Declarations of pecuniary interest. Seeing none. Community presentations. We have one presentation this evening. Machina Griffith, past president of the Pine Tree Potters Guild, regarding activities and community involvement of Pine Tree Potters Guild. Hello. If you could state your name for us, and you'll have 5 minutes, and at 1 minute there'll be a chime to let you know that there's a minute left. Thank you.
All right. Good evening, Your Worship and members of council. My name is Sheena Griffith, and I'm past president of Pine Tree Potters Guild. Our purpose tonight is to inform you about who we are, how we contribute to our community, so that we might be considered favorably in any plans the town is making for new facilities in the cultural precinct. Well, okay. Oh, I'm left-handed. Pine Tree Potters Guild has operated in Aurora since 1979. We are a non-profit pottery guild with 90 members that supports and facilitates the creation of ceramic arts. For the past 39 years, our guild has continually rented space from the town of Aurora. We value our long-term relationship with the town and greatly appreciate that council has made space available for us to rent. Pine Tree Potters enjoys a long-standing partnership with the Aurora Cultural Center. We rent space for our semi-annual pottery sales, the Empty Bowls event, our holiday potluck in December, and other juried exhibitions. Each year, the Guild provides funds to sponsor the Pine Tree Potters Activity Room in the basement of the Cultural Center. This 1,700 square foot room in the basement is used for community programming and arts camps. This space used to be the Pine Tree Potters Studio and now proudly bears our name. We offer year-round pottery classes to the community, including Able Network, Aurora Women's Institute, Girl Guides, Boy Scouts, and several Aurora schools. We also partner with the Cultural Center on summer camps for children. We have worked on several community projects. At the request of Queen's York Rangers, we created and donated a large wall insignia and commemorative tiles for their new headquarters on Industrial Parkway. And we made a plaque which was presented in person to His Royal Highness the Duke of York. For our Canada Day 2017 Poppy Garden project, our members created and then donated hundreds of handmade ceramic poppies that were then sold to the public and raised approximately $8,000, which was applied to the Aurora Legions Fund to repair the roof of their building. For the past 8 years, we have hosted our Empty Bowls event in the Cultural Center. We engage local restaurants, caterers, and shops to donate and serve gourmet soups and breads. We also solicit sponsorships and donations from local businesses. Our members volunteer their time to create 500 beautiful handmade soup bowls for the event. We host 3 sittings, 2 for lunch and 1 for dinner. In 8 years, we have donated $142,660 to local charities. In conclusion, we hope that you have learned a bit more about our guild through this presentation and thank the town for its continued support. We have enjoyed an excellent long-term relationship with the town and hope you will include our guild in the planning of any new facilities in the Cultural Precinct Library Square project. Thank you.
Thank you. First, can I get a motion to receive the presentation? Moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Kim. Councillor Humphreys, question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you very much for presenting this evening. And you do amazing work for the community and incredible donations back to the charities, local charities. And one of my favorites, Empty Bowls, has always been wonderful. But your ask for this evening, are you running out of space, or do you prefer a different space or a dedicated space for your group?
We're very happy with our space, but we're always living with the fear that the library will be asking for it back, and we want to be considered in the future in any buildings the town might be creating or any space that may come up if the library should choose to take our space back.
Okay.
But we have a 5-year lease with the town. I think there are 3 years left on the current lease.
3 years? Okay. Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Abel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you very much for coming out this evening and presenting. I did enjoy purchasing the poppies that you made, the ceramic ones, and bought a few of those and bought them for my my brother, and they're up north at his cottage. So great work, and of course the contributions you make are outstanding to our community. And I think it's very good that you let us know about these ideas because you're being proactive, and we don't want to do what we did with the Bridge Club and forget about an important group that are here. So I thank you very much for presenting and bringing that forward.
Councillor Gardner. Oh, Ms. Griffith, still got one more. Councillor Gardner.
It's me. Thank you very much. And the Empty Bowls has turned out to be an amazing event that we all can be proud of. Thank you for the work that the group does. Could you tell me a little bit more about the lease? The lease is a 5-year lease, and 2 years are up on that lease?
There are still 2 years remaining on our lease.
Thank you. And that lease is with the town of Aurora?
Yes, it's with the town, not the library, with the town.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming.
Anything else?
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, thank you very much, Ms. Griffith.
Thank you.
All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Delegations. We have one delegation tonight. Mr. John Gallo regarding R7, 100 Van Dorst Side Road, Hallmark Lands Community Park Design. Mr. Gallo, if you can state your name and address, and John's also a former councillor. Thank you for coming, John.
Good evening, everyone. John Gallo, 29 Civic Square Gate in Aurora. Thank you for having me this evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, staff, and the public. I'd like to bring some concerns that I have about the proposal before you. The process appears to be fast-tracked and not terribly welcome to public input. It did not initially go to Parks and Rec, as you know. It was a delegation that suggested it go to committee first. The meeting was struck outside the regularly scheduled meeting schedule. There were concerns at the meeting that the guests were told that through an email they were there only as visitors. They couldn't speak or participate in the meeting. This item, as you know, and those of you who spent some time on council with me, I have a particular beef with add-ons, and this is an add-on item 4:30 last night. Surely you would agree with me that anyone watching would have great difficulty trying to participate in this discussion and give input to you if the public is basically not aware that this is even happening. I was lucky that I was trying to call or email the clerk. He was away, so I made a phone call, and I happened to be told that it was tonight, and here I am. I'd like to bring my perspective on this property, and these are some of the facts, and please correct me if I have any of them incorrect. You purchased the property in 2015. We're talking about the Hallmark property in case anyone isn't aware. You purchased the property in 2015 for $7.4 million according to your land transactions form on your website. It's 13 acres. The current value based on recent sales in Aurora is between 1.8 and 2 million per acre, which gives us approximately $25 million. The zoning is being converted from employment lands to recreational, which will eliminate any property tax revenue in perpetuity. That's not a small thing. Converting employment lands to anything is a serious thing in this town, and we've been told that time and time again. Property taxes generated on that property, if it were fully built out, would be in excess of $1 million a year. You are proposing to spend $3 million on 2 baseball diamonds. With a value of $25 million plus 3, it's $28 million for 2 diamonds. That's $14 million per diamond. I would remind you that the cost to build Stuart Burnett Park baseball diamond in 2009 was around $1 million, excluding the land. To summarize, you have an asset worth $25 million. Should you decide to build the baseball diamonds, it is a $25 million investment at a loss of property taxes forever. This leads me to my suggestion. Sell the property, take the proceeds, and invest in repurposing our current recreational assets. There have been many suggestions, like adding a baseball diamond to Matra Park or adding lights to existing senior pitches that will add the evening hours, and many other suggestions that the sporting community would be more than happy to offer. You would have $25 million to contribute and continuous tax revenue to do this. It appears, I'm concerned, as should you, that the process to get here has been flawed. It appears that this item is being super fast-tracked, and as such, errors will be made. Should you decide to move forward, it is concerning, and you should also be concerned, that this will inevitably become an election issue for you. Council, please do not make this a joint operations number 2. Take your time and do it right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gallo. First, can I get a motion to receive the delegation? Moved by Councillor Gartner, seconded by Councillor Humphreys. Any comments or questions for the delegate? Councillor Abel.
Chair, and welcome back, Mr. Gallo. Nice to see you. You said the purchase price for the 13 acres was, because I've been asking.
Website, land transactions, 7.423350 million.
And the construction, we estimated at $3 million, so you've come up with another figure. Can you just go by those numbers again?
It's 13 acres, and if land value today, and there's properties at the 404 that are selling for 1.8 million an acre.
I see what you're
Do the
saying.
math.
We could flip it. Yep, I got it.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Any other comments or questions for the delegate? Councillor Gartner.
Thank you very much for coming. And could you please tell us again why the process was flawed or is flawed?
Well, I mentioned it. It didn't go to committee. It took a delegate to remind you that perhaps it should go to committee first.
Yes.
It went to committee, and unfortunately, the people that were invited or were at the meeting were told by an email that they could not participate. They were only there to listen, and they could not contribute to the discussion. Then it comes to general committee, an add-on item, 4:30 last night for a meeting. It is virtually impossible for the public to, I'm sure you'd agree with me, that any average person would have great difficulty contributing to this discussion after having gone through all of that. I was simply lucky.
Thank you. And for clarification, it went to which committee?
Leisure, Parks and Rec. Yeah.
And the members of the committee were allowed to participate?
Well, of course, I wasn't there, but that's what I'm told.
And
yes.
the people who came were not allowed to delegate?
Yes, it's a public committee. I would suspect that you would want some public input at that level, other than the committee members.
Thank you. That will have to be clarified. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gartner. Councillor Kemp.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Gallo, for presenting. You always provide your due diligence, and you're always diligent in that, and thank you for providing those figures. I think I just wanted to, I also participated as a member of the public on the Parks and Rec committee that was held last week, or it was 2 weeks ago, and the other stakeholders who were there as members of the public, they were allowed. Councillor Maracas chaired, and given the amount of interest that was there, he did allow the public who were in attendance to speak. So I just want to validate that. And this wasn't something that was put on the table just haphazardly. This was put on the budget last fall. It had ample time to be massaged throughout the community during the capital budget. There are certain, and I totally understand that process is important. Certainly, it's not taken lightly when processes are sometimes changed. But sometimes, when there is a sense of urgency in terms of the timing, in terms of the needs, when you look at the growth of baseball, our population, and the ratios of baseball fields versus all the other facilities, we terribly lack baseball diamonds relative to the other communities around us. And having read some of the stats, that's what it seemed to state. So I do respect everything you've mentioned, but there are some times where processes are, there are processes where you have to override or fast track certain things in order to get the timing of whether it be construction timing or putting tenders. So, I understand how you feel, and I can't totally disagree with you, but I think in the interests of baseball and sports, I think it was necessary. And I was really proud of all the stakeholders that were there, and the soccer club, the AYSC, Sport Aurora, and the AKBA representatives. They were all in, it seems to me, unanimous agreement of the end result. And I was very proud of all the residents there, and that we all came. It wasn't 60-40, 55-45. It seemed to be pretty unanimous. And if it wasn't, then that'd be a different matter. But that was the impression I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Count. Sure. Go ahead.
Well, I think generally 3 points there. The first, my reference was to an email that was sent to the people that were going to the meeting, telling them that they could not participate. They're there to listen, and that was it. That was my reference. In terms of baseball diamonds, I'm not in disagreement with you. What I'm suggesting is this is not the right place. You don't put recreational facilities on sacrosanct employment lands. There are big losses that I'm not sure you've taken full consideration of. And the last point was in terms of your sense of the community supporting this. I respectfully suggest that you are way off on that. I'm not sure what I wasn't at the meeting, but I can tell you in discussions, and I don't represent any of them, but I can tell you that you're incorrect in terms of the support for this project.
Thank you. Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you so much, John, Mr. Ayala, for coming this evening. I appreciate I know your style, and I appreciate it. It comes across very clear, and you bring up a good point, a valid point, and I think these lands from the very beginning were always discussed as recreational. So the accounting in terms of a business employment land, we do have to be careful for sure. I just wanted, my comment, I hate to be repetitive, Mr. Chair, was I was at that meeting as well a week and a half ago. And although normally committee meetings, the public come in, they do listen. and then the participation around the table. But it was chaired by Councilor Maracas, and I believe everyone had their opportunity to speak up. It was generally loosened up. That process as part of our procedures that we have for committee meetings. It wasn't just a public planning meeting, not just a public planning meeting, which is also something that we could think about throughout this whole process for sure. You're giving me some things to think about. And but in terms of the conversation around the table, there was some very good conversation, and there was what we heard loud and clear, great need in that area. So we'll see how tonight's conversation develops and goes from there. I see there's some nods in the crowd, so we'll have to see where we stand at this point. But thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Humphreys. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, Mr. Gallo, I just reiterate what Councillor Kim and Councillor Humphreys said. Appreciate all your points. I think you did a very good job in relaying them to us and the concerns. As you are fully aware, when it comes to committee meetings, delegations are allowed, but normally public is not allowed to speak just off the top of their head. I decided to waive procedure because I thought it was very important to hear from the residents, and so we waived procedure and allow for the residents in the seating area to speak and hear their viewpoints on the issue, and I thought that was very important to do, so we did do that. As far as an email, I wasn't aware, and I don't think any other council member was aware of any email, but thank you for bringing it to our attention, so we really appreciate it. So thank you very much for your delegation tonight. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. So next we'll move to the consent agenda. We have one item on the consent agenda. Anyone got any comments or questions on that one item? Can I get someone to, Councillor Tom, seconded by Councillor Humphreys. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Next we have the advisory committee meeting minutes. I'll just let the clerk explain this. This is a new part of our agenda.
Through you, Mr. Chair, just, yes, as Councilor Marcus says, it's a new part of the agenda, and we'd like it to be treated just like a consent agenda would be. Items can be pulled for further discussion, or if council is willing to, the items can be passed all in one motion.
So does anyone want to pull any one of these three items or have a question to them? Councillor Abel?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's not really to pull, it's just to highlight one of the recommendations in the minutes of the Accessibility Advisory Committee.
Sure, if you have a comment.
We'll be celebrating National Access Awareness Week beginning Tuesday, May 29th, and it goes through to Friday, June 1st. It's the first of this term. Much like the environmental did an echo thing, it's just to raise awareness, to highlight some of the accomplishments that we're doing to be an inclusive and accessible. So there'll be some speakers and some vendors and such. So I thought I would just highlight that from the minutes. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, and that's from A1. Is that correct? Thank you. Any other? Oh, Councillor Kemp. Is this a question, or did you want to pull something?
No, just a question regarding C1, Mr. Chair.
C1? We already passed that.
Okay.
Next week.
Next week it is.
Next week it is. Councillor Gardner.
Thank you. If I could just ask, I mean, of course, access is important to all of us. The National Access Awareness Week, how are we going to know the events that are going on and the timing?
So I guess I'll ask.
If you could ask through you, Mr.
Would Councillor
Mayor.
Abel like to answer that since you sit on the committee, or would someone else? Stephanie? Ms. Mackenzie Smith?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have been working with Matt Swanda, our accessibility coordinator, on some communications that will be going out, including a media release, as well as some promotional materials and social media posts promoting the Accessibility Week. And Matt has been in touch as well with our partners as well in the community to let them know.
Follow up, Mr. Chair, as it is today, the 15th of May, when is that going to be coming out?
Ms. Mackenzie Smith?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'll have to check with staff tomorrow morning. I know that they were working on it yesterday, so I'll verify with them, and I can send an email to let you know.
Councillor Gardner?
Thank you. It is a short time frame. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Anyone want to pull any one of those items? Okay, can I get a motion to receive the advisory committee meeting minutes, A1 through A3, and approve the recommendations by the committees? Moved by Councillor Tom, seconded by Councillor Gartner. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. All right, so we're going to move to the regular agenda. Is anything from the audience that we want to pull? I guess we have R7 I'd like to bring forward. And what's the other one? R4. Can I get a motion to move R7 and R4 forward? A motion to move R7 and R4 forward. Moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Gartner. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Should we start with R4? R4. Can I get a motion? Moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Humphreys. Any comments or questions on this item? Mayor Daw.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Just one quick question. I've had a couple of comments from residents on Maple Street. This would be through you to Mr. Ramuno. Just with respect to landscaping up along Maple Street, and I noticed from page 15 of 19 in the report that there seems to be a pretty good tree buffer. So just as we go through, to ensure that that happens, I would appreciate that. Otherwise, I think it's a great move forward.
Mr. Ramuno.
Certainly, through you, Mr. Chair. That's correct. We did receive comments from the public with respect to enhancing the landscaping along that edge, and the landscape plans do reflect additional landscaping treatment along the entire edge of the property. So we'll ensure that that gets incorporated into the development.
Mayor Daw. Councillor Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Ramuno, my question is, the Heritage Committee, when this came before us, some of their comments were that there was a need for an entrance or a main entrance along Yonge. Could you comment that that's been incorporated into the design, please?
Mr. Ramuno.
Certainly, through you, Mr. Chair. That's correct. The two key comments that came from the public at the Heritage Committee was the landscaping. The other comment was to incorporate a front door entrance along that west elevation, and the applicant has incorporated that, and I think it's reflected better in the colored rendering that has been provided to council. So there are 3 glass panels along that westerly addition. That center panel includes a door entrance.
Councillor Tom.
Thank you. And I think the main concern at the committee, if I remember correctly, was that for many years, the entrance of Our Lady of Grace has been onto Yonge. And right now, there is a staircase that leads from the sidewalk and the street up to the main entrance. Is that going to be a part of the plans moving forward?
Mr. Ramuno.
To you, Mr. Chair. That's a good point. They are keeping that entrance from Yonge Street in the same location it is today.
Councillor Tom.
Thank you. And I believe the last, one of the main items, there was a delegate at the Heritage Committee, a gentleman who lives on Maple, and part of the screening was for headlights. Is that something that's going to be contemplated? He mentioned that there's some sort of a light control, organization that has standards. So I'm not sure if you looked into that and if the landscaping will incorporate any of those ideas.
Mr. Ramuno.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, that's been addressed. There's additional deciduous trees and a lot more shrubbery to deal with the headlights from Maple Street.
Councillor Tom.
Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Councillor Tom. Councillor Gartner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've asked for this. We got a lovely handout tonight, the color copy that Marco was talking about. I've asked to put that up on the screen.
Thank you.
And while that's coming up, this is a very interesting situation because this is one of our landmarks. It's on Yonge Street. It has an address on Yonge Street. Its main part, the bulk of the structure, and the most, I won't say most important, but perhaps the most recognizable part of the structure faces onto Yonge Street. And as Councillor Tom said, it used to be a large, very attractive, welcoming entrance. And not only is this on one of our main streets, it's also part of the promenade plan. So with respect to the door, it can be seen if you look left of Our Lady of Grace Church. If you look right, you've got a double wooden door that goes into another part of the building. But with the main entrance, this most important entrance, it's a single door flanked by two windows. So I think at the very least it needs to be a double door. Councillor Tom we were talking last night about a wooden door. They do have that on the other door. But I think it needs to be an important door and an important entrance. I believe, I don't know if anybody is here from the church, but I believe that the church wants to take advantage of its parking lot, which is on the north part of this structure. And I understand that that will be the most accessible entrance. But it does need, in my opinion, and the committee's opinion, to maintain that wonderful presence on Yonge Street. And that's why the committee did recommend a door. And to me, they've got a double door on a secondary entrance. This is the important entrance. It should at least have a double door.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Councillor Abel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm just going to page 8 of 19 on this, where it says Accessibility Committee Review, Advisory Accessibility Committee. It says that the application was reviewed with no further comments. And I was at the meeting, and we had a couple of main concerns, and they're not noted in this report.
Do you want to make us aware of them?
Well, I was just looking at the minutes, and I'm just trying to find, there's no reference date when they were here, so I'm back at October. But it seems to me we thought the ramp was in the wrong place and excessively long. And we made recommendations that there should be, the emergency escape routes should have consideration for how people were going to, because they only had one way to get in and out on a ramp. So we thought the front and maybe a rear, but we did have concerns, and I can't highlight them right now, but it just caught me off guard, Mr. Chair, that we had no further comments, and we did. So for the record, I want to make sure that that's understood. And if you give me a minute, I'll see if I can find the exact points.
Well, maybe we can get you on a second time around.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Before I go to Councillor Tom for the second time, anyone want to speak for the first time? Councillor Humphreys.
Through you, Mr. Chair, for me overall, I think this is a fantastic plan. I'm thrilled that the church is going to have an opportunity to expand. It's needed very, very urgently, and I'm thrilled with it. I love the entrance. I understand Councillor Gardner's comments on a double door. I think the lovely glass to me makes it very obvious it's an entrance. I think it's lovely, and I can't wait to see it come to fruition. So thank you very much. That's all my comments.
Thank you, Councillor Humphreys. Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Given that all the resident issues have been dealt with and satisfied by all stakeholders, the Heritage Advisory Committee approved the plan. And I think it's great that there's two access points from Maple and Catherine's. The design looks great. I am in approval. It looks beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kim. Councillor Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'd just like Mr. Amuno to expand, for the benefit of the people in attendance and those watching, with respect to the letter of credit for the Heritage Building at 16 Catherine Avenue, which is Lynette Hall. The proposal is to remove Lynette Hall, but to retain the heritage structure. And obviously, the Heritage Committee has concerns that with respect to some other buildings that in the past that have been either added onto or partially demolished that have then needed to be either fully demolished or moved or rebuilt and basically lost the heritage character of those buildings. I'd just like you to expand a little bit on the details of the letter of credit and just how the Roman Catholic Church intends to preserve 16 Catherine Avenue.
Mr. Ramuno?
Certainly, through you, Mr. Chair. So their plan is to remove that rear portion, Lynette Hall, which was the rear addition to that original parish home, restore their home. We've already received advice from their engineer and architect that believe that the removal of the Lynette Hall structurally should not be an issue. Because again, it was added on at a later date. However, it's our standard practice as part of the site plan agreement. We will impose a condition that requires the applicant, the owner, the church to put up a letter of credit, a security in cash to ensure that that removal will occur without damage to the remaining structure. And they will also be required to submit the final structural engineering report to ensure that it's done in such a manner to not put the existing home at risk. And their plan is, again, to restore the existing parish home as well. So we will impose that condition as part of the site plan agreement.
Okay. Councillor Tom?
Thank you. And I'd just like to finally say that I'm in favor of this as well. I think that this is an improvement, and it's going to look great on Yonge, and certainly a welcome home for those parishioners at Our Lady of Grace. So thank you very much, Mr. Ramuno.
Thank you, Councillor Tom. Councillor Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and my apology for not acknowledging all the people from this congregation who've come out tonight to hear what we have to say about this. When it came to the Heritage Committee, we were thrilled with, we want this church to be as functioning and as wonderful as it can possibly be, and we talked about screening and additional parking and all the elements that are going to make this a wonderful restoration. My point and the committee's point about the front doors were that the front doors draw the community into the feel of this church, into the importance of it to the community. And it's not a criticism, it is an ask to continue to make Our Lady of Grace, which has been a very important part of our community for a very long time, to continue that view on Yonge Street, that welcoming entrance. Perhaps it won't be used as much as it is now, but it adds to the look and the feel of our heritage, not only of the town, but also to our historical Yonge Street and the Promenade area. So I do ask that the congregation think about what the committee has said. We want to make things better, not difficult. And we think that a beautiful door at the former entrance to the building would add to the streetscape and to the look of the church.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Councillor Abel?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I want to thank everyone from Our Lady of Grace Parish that are here. An outstanding rendering, and I think it's going to look beautiful, and I'm all in favor of it. I am on the Accessibility Advisory Committee, and Mr. Chair, I'm not in any way criticizing or have anything but welcoming this. I'm just concerned about accessibility. And Mr. Chair, I did find it from the September 6 minutes. Was item 2, and it was regarding the application for a minor site plan amendment, and the following comments regarding the site plan application be considered by staff. And that's a request for a barrier-free entrance that includes addition of a ramp, and a request for an elevator or other barrier-free access to be provided between all floors. And we, Accessibility Advisory Committee, see new builds and lots of applications, whether it's a hotel or something that the town is building. Our job is to try and make sure that upon construction that those comments are brought forward. So they are minor in nature, and I'm sure if I'm looking at our planner, that I'm sure the church will have no problem taking those recommendations into consideration. And I think, again, it looks wonderful, and I'm looking forward to seeing the church renovated.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll just ask Mr. Ramuno if he can just elaborate. Can those issues still be worked with and discussed as far as accessibility?
To you, Mr. Chair, certainly, I mean, we'll have a discussion with the architect, and they'll obviously need to address those accessibility requirements under the code. It's not a new build, it is an addition, but I'll certainly have a discussion with the architect tomorrow.
Thank you, Mr. Ramuno. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Through you to Mr. Ramuno. Mr. Ramuno, up to this point, have those comments not been shared but with the applicant with regards to either accessibility issues and or the front door?
Mr. Ramuno.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Certainly the comments from the Heritage Committee, the front door, they were there. I wasn't at the Accessibility Committee, but I'm pretty sure that those comments were passed on to the applicant, but I will confirm tomorrow.
That's fine. I'm glad to hear that the comments were passed along, and at the end of the day, this is the application they're putting forward, and I certainly support their application. My other comment really through you to Mr. Ramuno again is with regards to the design review panel. You know, we try to vet these proposals as well as possible, and we established a design review panel early on in this term. It does state in here that the design review panel had no concerns or comments, but, you know, did they think anything with regards to the front door?
Mr. Ramuno.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I know they had no concerns with the original with the front door, the west elevation, and the application was presented to the design review panel early on, and hence they had no comments. They were satisfied with the proposal. They did make some comments related to some of the materials for the steeple, and they were addressed and they're reflected in the current drawing before council.
Councillor Thompson.
That's great. This is a long time coming, and I look forward to it actually coming to fruition.
Thank you. Other comments or questions? Seeing none, I just got a quick comment. You know, I think it's great. I think it's this has been a lot of work by the church, by the congregation, putting this together and bringing this forward in an application that I think that not only suits their needs, but I think also continues to make this a focal point for our downtown core. And so I appreciate all the work that they've done in bringing this forward. And I think that we're all looking forward to seeing this completed and we can show it off to the whole town. So thank you very much, everyone, for coming tonight. So I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Thank you very much. We'll move to R7. Can you get a motion? Someone want to move? Recommendation? Moved by Councillor Thompson. Seconded by Councillor Tom. Sorry, I didn't see that. Any comments or questions? Mayor Daw.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just speaking quickly to the process that this has gone through, and if council wishes to put this off for another cycle, then that's council's decision. They can do that. But I did drop into the committee meeting last Monday, and we certainly had members of the public speak. You graciously invited members of the public to speak outside of what the normal committee process would be, senior and youth soccer, for want of a better way to phrase it right now, both advocated for more soccer fields. That's fine. And there was someone from baseball who advocated for baseball. There was a gentleman there who advocated for removing the pile of dirt by his factory. There was lots of comments. And again, if council wishes to go back and get some more input, that's fine. I would support that. But overall, I believe it was unanimous support out of the committee to move forward. If the land was purchased last term, I think. 2015? I thought it was purchased before that. Mr. Downey, do you remember? Through you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Downey?
How's your memory, sir?
I believe it was 2015, but we'll allow Mr. Downey to answer that.
It was purchased during the last term of council.
Oh, was it?
That's what I thought.
Are you sure?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
Maybe if we can get,
started.
so it's just so I can, maybe we can get that clarified for next week.
It certainly
because-
started in the last term
Yeah.
of council.
Okay.
And council was on side with that at that point. So if council chooses to change the use of that land, that's obviously a council decision as well. But at this point, I'll support going through what's going through and listen to my colleagues and see if there's anything that would make me change my views at this point.
Thank you, Mayor Daw. Councillor Gartner.
Thank you. And I never considered that we would be taking, I never really thought about it, that we'd be taking employment lands and turning them into rec lands. And there is a regional policy, and there's also, the town also has a policy about not changing employment lands to, residential. The intent being that the taxes are important from employment lands. So I don't know why that's something that was never discussed over two councils. Thank Mr. Gallo for bringing it to our attention. I do believe we need, I know we need one baseball diamond, and there was a pretty strong case made about having two diamonds together. Could somebody, perhaps Mr. Elliott, there was the comment about on the Stuart Burnett lands, and that is a very fancy baseball diamond. That was $1 million. So it looks like these are more costly than that. Is that just because it's later in the day that we're paying more money? Or I don't know if anybody at the table can answer that.
I'll give that to Mr. Downey, I believe would be best to answer that.
We should answer that question from the podium.
Certainly. First of all, I'd like to, I believe you're correct, the land was purchased during this term, but the discussion happened in the previous term. So I believe that was the clarification I had to give on this. So I think you're correct. I think the actual purchase was made by this council, but we'll confirm with you through council. The cost of the ball diamond at Stuart Burnett, it was built in 2010, I believe. I believe it was 2010.
Okay, I defer to you.
Okay, I believe it was, and it was $1 million, and
Okay.
that was the cost of the diamond at that time. It's 8 years later, and costs certainly have increased. These diamonds, however, don't have quite the features that diamond did. If you recall, they wanted dugouts in that particular diamond, and so it had some features that these diamonds will not.
Councillor Gartner.
Thank you, and if I recall correctly, there was some extra fundraising for that. I could be wrong about the added features. Thank you. That's it for now.
Thank you, Councillor Gartner. Councillor Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The delegate who spoke earlier, Mr. Gallo, with respect to this item, indicated that he was unhappy with the process that was followed by the town, and he mentioned that the Parks and Rec committee had to call a special meeting. It's my understanding that the reason is because Parks and Rec only meets every other month, and looking at my schedule, the next scheduled meeting of Parks and Rec would have been June 21st, and that Parks and Rec called a special meeting in order to deal with the item in May, as opposed to waiting all the way to June 21st. Am I correct?
That would be correct.
And were all the policies and procedures of the town followed when that special meeting was called?
That would be correct.
The next item, and I know addendums to the agenda are sometimes frustrating, but the town does have a policy with respect to addendums on the agenda, otherwise known as additional items. I believe they're spelled out in our procedural bylaw. I'd just like to confirm to the clerk that The procedures for addendums to the agenda in respect to this item were followed.
Mr. Clark?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, there were.
Thank you.
Councillor Tom?
Thank you. I just wanted to clear that up. And speaking to the item in general, this has been a long process. This is not just dropped out of nowhere. This is a product of a motion and was discussed at budget and has now brought us to this point. And I'm of the opinion that there is a need for baseball diamonds, and this is not about putting one sport against another sport. You know, I grew up playing baseball and soccer in Aurora. My wife's a soccer coach, and it's not about pitting one group of people against another. It's just about the needs of our town, and I think baseball is in need of diamond space, and so I'll be in favor of 2 baseball diamonds at this location. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tom. Councillor Thompson?
Thank you. And I did find the bylaw, and it is 2015 where we did acquire the land. So while there may have been conversation in 2014, it definitely was 2015 that we purchased the lands, and that was the bylaw. So, but I will also say that if you look at the bylaw, it quite clearly states that the land were purchased for municipal purposes. And when we had the conversation in closed session about whether or not to purchase those lands, you know, Mr. Downey provided us with information of what those lands would be used for. So going in, when we chose to purchase it, it was always going to be purchased for recreational. And so this change from industrial use to recreational was known when we purchased the land. And council made that decision, no different than when we've acquired other pieces of land. Last term, for those who are here, we decided to purchase Mavernack, and we did that again for municipal purposes for the community benefit. And the decision at that time was that no, we weren't going to flip the land and make a profit on it. We were buying that land for a goal, for a purpose, and it was for the community benefit. And same here. I mean, yes, we could turn around and flip this land and, you know, we paid 7, we can get 14 because last I checked, industrial land goes for $1 million an acre. And so there is a possibility to make a profit, but that's not what we're here. We're here to address the needs of the community, and that's why we buy those lands. That's why Mr. Downey's been in talks with the province for the Bloomington lands for 8 years. We're not looking to purchase and flip those lands. We're looking to purchase those lands to address the shortfalls and the needs of the community, especially our sports and rec community. And so this is the same thing with these lands. So I have a hard time putting that into the equation about what the cost of it is, because going in, we said, regardless of whether it's going to be baseball fields, soccer fields, park space, whatever it is, you know, we were buying that for that purpose. And if you want to do that kind of math, I don't think that's really genuine. So I just want to remind council what we decided to purchase this land for.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Kim?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I think our town motto was Aurora, where we're a place where we can work, play, and what's the third one?
Did you
Live,
already
work, and
forget,
play.
Councillor Kim? Did you
And
already
it
forget?
seems that it is catchy. And part of that formula that is lacking is the play portion. And fortunately, we have experts in Sport Aurora, the soccer associations, and baseball, AKBA, the baseball associations, to provide us with some of that guidance and information. And I do believe, you know, as Councillor Thompson mentioned, we made the best decision that, given the information that we had. And I think to respond to, you know, the tax laws, you know, we have to remember that the Hallmark lands were empty for a long time. No one wanted to build on it, buy it, or create a business on it. So it was vacant. We were not collecting any tax revenue on that property. And having unused land, having unused assets that wasn't bringing any intrinsic or fiscal, financial value to the town is frankly a waste of taxpayers' assets. And so we felt at the time, and we still do today, that this is the best decision based on all the variables that we had. So, you know, if a company was there, and paid $10,000 in property taxes, it's not as if we lost the $10,000, because a large portion of that is used to service that property, that commercial property. So it's not like we're going to allocate those funds to another portion of the town. All the taxes are bundled up together and used for commercial or residential purposes. We also have a plan for sport tourism, and I think this fits, fittingly into that plan. We don't have many areas where we have multiple baseball diamonds. Baseball Ontario just awarded another tournament to another municipal association, and part of our AKBA coaches and people are over there, and it'd be nice to have tournaments in Aurora, and you can only it's more likely for that to happen when you have multiple diamonds in one area. And our Parks and Rec plan, master plan, I mean, it's there that we need to. We have a shortage of recreational facilities, and we want to follow our master plan. Those are all the things I have to say for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kim. Councillor Abel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I kind of look at it on a different lens than my colleagues here, and I'm looking at fiscal responsibility. If I'm going to construct a ball diamond, I'm going to do it in the most responsible way. I'm going to take an approach with a project management methodology that was recommended with the JOC audit, and look at everything in our needs, and that's employment lands, and that's also providing recreation. So we have to look at the whole picture here. If you tell me I'm going to build a ball diamond for $4.5 million, I'm going to say that's not responsible. You have to look a little harder and do a little better than that. Yes, we looked at the Hallmark lands, and I think we had our eye on the building, and we were looking at leveraging that into a multi-sports facility. That failed. We didn't move fast enough, so we picked up the lands, which was a prudent move. And I now find out, because I think at the committee it was stated by our director that it was about $350,000 an acre, and that would have made a total price for 13 acres at just about $4.5 million. And so I would like some clarity on the price, because our delegates said he read the bylaw and it was 7.5. Then that's significant. That's $3 million difference. So we're throwing around millions, and we really should think about the conversion of recreational land to from employment land. This is, and we saw this when we did the area next to Don Hillock. We use that into employment land. We have to think long term for our community. We can't be giving away employment land. We have to guard and make that available for the long-term sustainability of our community. So if we have an opportunity to move that land and sell it, we can use the money we gain. We can build our multi-sports facility with that. I would look for, as the recommendation points out, for the tourism, it would make sense to me, you would have 2 ball diamonds close to our downtown core, which would make the unused Machel Park an ideal location. It's already serviceable, it's already got parking, which means we're going to deliver 2 ball diamonds at a less price, and then we're going to rejuvenate and put in right next to our restaurants and shops right there on Yonge Street. And I would like to know why, when I've heard discussion with our soccer delegates, why that has not been put on the table to discuss, because we could save millions. And then if we use that land and sell Hallmark, we gain 2 ways. We gain with taxes, because we're going to sell that to an employer, someone in a factory, and it's a big piece of land, and that means we're going to get tax assessment. And then we can also use it to purchase land, and I think Mayor Dahl pointed out at the committee, the table lands in the moraine. If we are thinking environmentally, putting fields is not too much of an intrusion on tabled lands for water, we could put fields there. It would just make sense that we could put several fields south in the Leslie and Bloomington area where it's flat land and it's available for us to use. So we could, in the long run, if we use a project methodology, we could gain employment lands right in the heart of town. We could buy more land for fields, and we could put two baseball diamonds right in the heart of Machel Park at a much less price than what we've got. So that's sort of fiscally responsible in my mind, how we would look at delivering baseball fields and moving forward in that direction. That's the way I look at it. Just saying, oh, well, we've got the lands, we were just going to do it, and to take away all that money and put it and construct a diamond at $5.5 million per diamond, they will be the most expensive ball diamonds ever constructed, I would imagine, anywhere in Ontario. And we would have to, we would take credit for that because of that. And we're moving this along as fast as we can. I am absolutely amazed that the minutes of May 7th are on our agenda, when normally it takes 6 weeks and longer for minutes to come. So there's a reason to move this forward at lightning speed, to have it as an add-on. And I'm not in favor of moving at this speed. We had this land since 2015. We've basically been inactive on the file. But now we're moving at lightning speed just before an election. So I'm not in favor of doing this. I would like to take a sober look back, maybe a month, and I bet you we could have a couple of those diamonds going right away in Machel Park by the end of next year. We could deliver cheaper, right in the heart of town, and sooner. So I'm not in favor of this, and for all those reasons.
Are you, Councillor Abel, are you offering up an amendment?
Let me think. Do you have a recommendation, Mr. Chair? If I have another minute or two, and I say I do, I might ask a question. The Hallmark lands, are we collecting taxes on that through you, Mr. Chair?
Mr. Elliott?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we own it, so it's exempt.
What about the building?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do not own the building.
Are we collecting
So
taxes?
it's taxable.
So have we always been collecting taxes on that part? And before we purchase it, were we collecting taxes?
Mr. Elliott?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the vacant lands are taxed at a much lower rate than the building would have been. So the assessed value is partitioned between the industrial use lands and then the vacant or surplus industrial lands. They're taxed at a lower level. So, but as soon as we bought the vacant lands, they became exempt and we've stopped collecting.
Councillor Abel?
Through you, Mr. Chair, it is now employed, and we are collecting taxes on the portion of land that is occupied in the building. Had we not purchased that land and that land was vacant, would we be collecting taxes on the whole parcel?
Mr. Elliott?
Because yes, we would, because the property would be in private hands in industrial use or in vacant land use, but it would be taxable.
So, yes, it was vacant, and it took a while to get occupied, and we were collecting taxes at a lesser rate, and now that it's occupied, we are getting tax assessment. So that's not a reason to get, because we were not collecting taxes. It's not correct to say that. And I just wanted to be sure that we were collecting taxes and it's still available. I'll save my questions. I really don't have a recommendation. I'm thinking that from what I recall, when we had this April 17th, we had asked for staff to report back on statistics and a number of other items and we wanted to communicate with our soccer clubs and organizations, and then we wanted to go to the Parks and Rec and then come back as a full report. And the report has changed a bit, but I don't see the statistics on registration fees and that. But I did talk to the director, and I do understand some of the usage, and so I appreciate that being explained to me. But I would have thought I would have seen numbers and registrations on tables, expected growth from each of the organizations. But we're all looking for fields, and we want to prioritize the baseball. And I want to make that clear. I'm all in favor of moving two diamonds together as quickly as possible for the baseball community because they do need it. They are expanding. I want to make that perfectly clear. But I want to deliver it for the taxpayers and the community at the best price possible and what works in a whole project methodology. And that is to maintain our employment lands. And that is to use portions of a park that is underused, in my opinion. And we could provide a great two diamonds there right in the heart of Aurora, and it would make sense to me for tourism and our businesses there. So do I make that recommendation that we do that? I'll just wait. I'll let the other councillors talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Abel. Councillor Gartner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is sounding a lot like election speak. You know, we have two groups here, and as a council, we want to try and take care of all of our user groups. And we know that we need baseball baseball fields, and we know that we need soccer fields. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Downey, I'm even not sure if it's you, Mr. Downey. Did we get the stats that were requested?
Mr.
So I've missed them.
Yeah.
Where did we get them?
Ms. McDougall?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the staff reached out to all of the user groups for both soccer and baseball fields, and thankfully all of them had responded and provided the data we were looking for, and the information on memberships, utilization, all of the information we'd requested. So based on that information on the tables that we generated, they were summarized and brought to the Parks Recreation Committee and shared at the committee level. Summarizing at a high level what's in this report today as it relates to the utilization rates for both baseball users and soccer or rectangle field users. And it also identified some other elements that are noted in summary in the reports that before council today.
Thank you. Well, thank you for the summary. But we didn't actually see the stats set from the parks that the Parks and Rec did. Thank you. Mr. Downey, this one is definitely for you. I mean, I'm in here so long, I don't even remember the dates, but I know that we tasked, one of the councils tasked you to go to the appropriate agency and find out if we could use table land on the Oak Ridges Moraine for facilities that we're talking about, or for fields. And I don't ever remember getting an answer back. Are we allowed to do that? Through you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Downey, or does Mr. Ramuno want to take this one?
Well, Mr. Downey was the one
Mr.
who put
Downey?
forward the report.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, I recall that, and we haven't got a definitive answer. I just talked to Mr. Ramona. Province isn't giving a clear answer what you can or cannot do. So we aren't sure whether or not you can or you cannot do it. One of the concerns is not necessarily building the field, but there are structures that are required in addition to the fields that they may have objections to. An access road, parking, servicing of the land, that type of thing, they may have objection to. That would all be required in order to build a facility such as this within the Oak Ridges Moraine.
Councillor Gardner?
Thank you. And I can see the chart in front of me. It was pages and pages of chart. You went through all of the possible or potential table lands, flat lands, that the town might be able to find to buy. And that was, I'm thinking that was at least 2010. At least, yes. So even before that. So if it's taken the government this long to try and give us an answer, I'm guessing that we can't rely on getting a yes answer, unless you can think of any way that, through you, Mr. Chair, that we could actually get a definitive answer.
Mr. Downey, is there any way we can get some better answers for next week?
The issue, we're not getting a clear answer, and that's part of the problem. But what also we've done is we reached out to find if anyone else has done it, and they haven't. So that kind of gives me an indication that it's not possible. I don't have a problem being the first, but I don't believe that like I say, I don't believe there's an objection to a field, but we can't do it without bringing an access road in and bringing services in. We need hydro, we need water, and so we'd have to be able to service that land, and that's where the major objection comes in.
Okay, so then we just have to take that off the table. And as far as I remember, we had to take every other, I don't even know how many options you had, but there were many. There were at least 15. So we've taken all those options off the table, and we ended up with this one. With respect to Mayshall Park, I think, I'm not sure who could answer this. I'm pretty sure it's floodplain.
It is. I believe it is. Mr. Downey?
Through you, Mr. Chair, both Fleury and Mayshall are both floodplain.
Councilor Gardner?
Yeah, so that doesn't seem to be a viable option, or certainly would be a very expensive option. And with respect to what Councillor Thompson said and what I said before, I never thought of buying this land in terms of taxes, tax loss. But at the end of the day, what he also said was that, and others have said that, sometimes we have to look at community benefit, and we have been looking for a piece of land for so long, and there is nothing. And who knows, we may get lucky and find another piece of land as well. People have mentioned Bloomington, but we have other needs. We have, soccer has needs. There's we have all kinds of needs. So we need all the land we can get. And I think that's all that I have to say for now.
Thank you, Councilor Gardner. With Councilor Humphreys for the first time.
Thank you, through Mr. Chair. Thank you very much. So, lots of great, interesting conversation. Couple things. Just to touch a little bit about Mayshall Park, for sure it's floodplain. I think one of the groups came and proposed a multifaceted, multi-sports recreational building, and we recommended, in fact, I think it was Lake Simcoe came back and recommended that you would not build here, just in terms of this flooding and the issues that go on, so that's probably not a good idea. But relative to what we're doing today, I mean, we've been on this course for a long time. It's not new. What we had to do was try to analyze what the soccer club's uses were, and what we came up with was that Baseball Diamonds, at this point in time, from what we know, requires this additional facilities. However, it doesn't mean soccer is going to stop. We need to continue to work and find more fields and more recreational opportunities for all our clubs. Soccer's heavily, it's one of the biggest, of course, users of all the fields that we've got. We need to help soccer. We're not going to stop, but we need to start somewhere. We can't just say, oh, you know what, let's start from the beginning again and let's get more stats. And we've been at it since 2000. We bought this land for the intention for recreational use. Yeah, it's employment lands. We made that decision, and we're on that course. I believe it's the right decision. We have to remember we're running a place where we love to live and love to play, as Councillor Kim mentioned, and we need to have recreational facilities for our residents. And I'm not discounting soccer. My kids all play soccer. My grandson plays soccer. I wanted to get to baseball, but maybe one day. But we did get stats from the clubs. We do have the recommendations from staff. There was a meeting conducted, a special council meeting, special committee meeting. There was lots of input. There were some people saying that, just like soccer, they're turning people away. They're going to other communities to play baseball. They're going to Markham, King, Richmond Hill, Thornhill, wherever, because they can't, there's no space here. So, this is something that we need to do. I believe we're on the right track, and we have a long way to go in order to get where we need to go for the Baseball Diamonds. I think it's the right decision at this point. I don't want to defer this. I don't want to stop it. I think we've done a lot of work around here. We still have a lot more work to be done, and I think we should give staff recommendations. At the same time, we don't stop working to look for lands for soccer. We need to continue to do that too. So at this point, we have a plan. It was unanimously voted on at committee at Parks and Rec last couple weeks or whenever that was. And I think for me, I just want to go forward. I understand the concerns from all the different sports clubs. It would be like great to have facilities for everyone, but we don't at this point in time. I just thought we need to encourage staff, and they still are, to look for opportunities to get fields that we need for all our sports clubs. So at this point, for me, I'm in favor to move forward this evening on this, and we'll see what the rest of the night, how the rest of the conversation goes.
Thank you, Councillor Humphreys. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much. Part of what drives us is the fact that we're trying to plan for the future. We recognize that if you follow what the growth plan says, that it implies that in 2041 there's going to be 90,000 people in Aurora. And so we're trying to make sure that we have the services and the facilities to meet the community's need. We're not going to build it after the fact. We're trying to do it and manage that growth. And so if you think about it, building these facilities is to meet that growing demand. And it's a good lesson to be learned, because we've had this conversation in the past with regards to gymnasiums. So last term, we built a gymnasium at the leisure complex, and we did it because there was a deficit. And one of the reasons there was a deficit is because it was not built in the prior term when they built the SARC. And so at a greater cost to the taxpayers, we built a gymnasium. And now we're having that same conversation again, because we recognize we still need more gymnasiums. And again, we're looking at it. Had it been done back when they built the SARC, it would have saved the taxpayers a lot of money. And so our job is always to look ahead and try and plan for the needs, and if possible, solve the problem today. And so with regards to solutions, through you to Mr. Downey. Mr. Downey, prior to becoming Director of Operations, you were Director of Parks for how long?
Mr. Downey?
For Aurora?
Yes.
Since December 17th, 1999.
So,
Councillor Thompson?
Almost 20 years. Would it be fair to say that you have, for 20 years, looked at a variety of options to address the needs of the community when it comes to fields and facilities?
Mr. Downey?
That's a short yes, absolutely. Almost the first thing I did when I got here was start looking for parcels of land, because we had a master plan that required facilities, but we had no land base.
And, I remember shortly after getting elected in 2010, you coming to closed session and presenting your wish list, your acquisition list of all the land that is in Aurora that could potentially solve some of the issues that we have with regards to the shortage of facilities and park space. And, to me, you've always been working towards that. So when I hear last minute solutions like build on the Moraine, this is something that's been brought to our attention on numerous occasions. We've had numerous conversations about it, and I'm glad Councillor Gardner brought it up, because we know the answer to that the province has not given us a definitive yes. No one else has done it. It's going to take a legal challenge or somebody just to go ahead and defy the province and push the issue for it to happen, and it hasn't happened yet. And so it's not fair to throw that out at this late hour, knowing that that issue has been discussed ad infinitum. With regards to Matchell Park, have you ever considered building 2 baseball diamonds in Matchell Park in your 20 years with the town?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Mr. Chair, when Council asked us to look at, if you don't mind, if Council asked us to, when Council asked to look at the 2 baseball diamonds after the presentation, the first thing you asked us to do was look at where this could happen. So staff at that time took a look at all the land that we had available, all the facilities we had available, looked at possible repurposing of facilities in order to accommodate that. And we could not come up with a solution that we felt was going to address baseball needs without having some impact on existing facilities and also have an impact on existing residents. And I'll explain both of those. So that's why we made the recommendation to come forward with Hallmark. One of the reasons we were looking at Hallmark is we knew that this was going to be for community facilities. Community facilities are generally lit facilities. So these were going to be very bright. They were going to be noisy, and they were going to generate a lot of traffic. So all of those have impacts with regards to facilities. If we look, for instance, at Machel, we have a softball diamond and a t-ball within Machel, but we also have a soccer field. So if we wanted to look at putting 2 baseball diamonds in Machel, first of all, we would eliminate both of those, the softball and the t-ball, but we'd also eliminate a soccer pitch. because we'd have to use those lands in order to build a baseball diamond. We didn't feel that that was perhaps the most appropriate thing, is to take one facility away from a group in order to build another. But more importantly, if we did that, we were going to light that facility. And so now we were going to introduce lights into a community that's never had lights before. They do have events, as you know, Ribfest and those types of things, but those are not on an ongoing basis. So there is some concern with regards to that. The loss of a soccer pitch was fairly significant because that is a very heavily used facility. So we were looking for land base that was going to allow us to accommodate these uses as council had directed us to do, and put what we felt was in the most appropriate location on a land base that we had available. Hallmark was the only location that we had available to us at that time, and still is. We have no other place. If it's not at Hallmark, it's no place else. Without eliminating facilities within our existing inventory. That's the reason that we went forward with Hallmark, and it's also, we did give Machel consideration. As you know, at the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee, it was discussed, and there may be an opportunity to look at a repurposing of Machel, but more along the soccer line instead of the baseball line. We have a senior lit soccer pitch at Fleury Park. We already have a senior pitch at Machel. With the construction of these two diamonds, it gives us an opportunity to at least consider eliminating those two diamonds in Machel and building a soccer pitch. Now we'll have 3 soccer pitches within that same area. Introducing lights is going to be a different conversation, but it does provide council with some opportunities as far as repurposing goes. So by no means have we stopped looking at opportunities to look at it as an efficient an operation as we possibly can within our parks inventory. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Downey. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Downey. And just as a reminder, we pay staff for their expertise, and in their expert opinion, this is the way to go forward to address that particular need, baseball diamonds. But, you know, as Mr. Downey alluded to, and as we heard at the committee, you know, we also need to look at repurposing. And the committee wholly endorsed that concept and passed a recommendation, which council approved this evening as well. We need to do both. We need to look at repurposing, and we need to look at continuing to acquire more fields in order to address our need. Again, I go back to the fact that by 2041, there's 90,000 people. We need to get ahead of this curve. And so, you know, I appreciate Mr. Downey's responses with regards to that. I think we continue to look at repurposing. I think we continue to look at solutions that are in front of us, and we continue to move forward, and I fully support the motion in front.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just to add to that point regarding repurposing on Matchell Park, you know, it was said at the Parks and Rec committee meeting that having a adult diamond and a T-ball diamond, there was a safety concern. And so part of the repurposing is that perhaps we can put the soccer fields in that Matchell Park area, and it really satisfied both parties, in particular at that meeting. Everyone was in agreement with that. When you look at the statistics in terms of the utilization of those 2 baseball diamonds, they were at 50%. So when we have a shortage of diamonds, but they're only being utilized at 50% because of safety factors and others, you know, that's a prime area where we can reallocate those resources to soccer or other uses. You know, with regards to costs, you know, it's been discussed earlier, but you know, through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Downey, you gave us a quote of, you know, $3 million on this report. As one of the members mentioned, are we setting a benchmark here? Is this going to be the most expensive baseball diamond in Canada?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, I wouldn't say it's the most expensive. It is expensive, but that's if you include the land costs. It's valuable land, but there's more valuable land in town. it has recreation facilities on it. It is, unless council has a strong desire to sell the land, it really has, the value is somewhat moot. The issue is the construction of this facility within line of the construction facility anywhere else? Yes, it is. The only different factor with regards to that is what the value of that land beneath it is. But as I said, that is that would only be an issue if there was a serious consideration of sale.
Yeah. Councillor Kemp?
Yes, thank you. And, unlike, when we have housing needs where infill can be the answer, sporting facilities like a soccer field, baseball diamond is quite unique because of the scale and the size. And you can only build these in lands like the Hallmark property. And, if it's $3 million now, next year it might be $4 million, and 3 years later it might be $4.5 million. Unlike housing where you can go up and down, when you construction, it's usually from a bottom left to top right because of labor costs. So that doesn't go down. Sure, is it expensive? It's not cheap, but it's certainly going to be more expensive if we wait around further. And with respect to the Hallmark land as well, can we flip it for residential or even commercial? I recall a couple of years ago, residents in the adjacent neighborhoods and even companies were complaining about Van Rob, which had a heavy stamp machinery, and it was causing vibration to the point where it was worrisome to the residents and other adjacent businesses. And so, that makes it a challenge in terms of selling that property and even utilizing, whatever that value might be. So, those are the things that we all had to consider. And sure, when you come to a decision like this, you're not going to get the buy-in of 100%. And I'd be surprised if we got the buy-in of 70, 75. But, that's great that, everyone can voice their opinions. But, we do believe, majority of council, that this is the best utilization of this land. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ken. Mayor Daw.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My colleagues have already addressed most of the points that I would like to bring up. If we were in the business of buying and selling, which I don't believe that's the business that a municipality should be in, we should have flipped Mavernack. We could have tripled our money.
Are you going back to that again?
Well, I'm just pointing out that if we had flipped Mavernack, we could have tripled our money. A developer would have bought it. They would have put all sorts of housing on there, and we would have made tax dollars that way. But the council of the day elected to make a park there. So obviously we have precedent for buying land and turning it into recreational property. And as Councillor Thompson mentioned, when we first started, Mr. Downey presented us with his wish list of properties he'd like to get to fulfill recreational purposes, and the Hallmark lands was on there. As a matter of fact, I still hear about the fact that the town flipped, I won't use that word. The town converted the land in the southeast corner of Wellington and Leslie into business park from recreational after the SARC was built. So I think Mr. Downey's still trying to recover from that one. So the community is, I would suggest, is very much in favor of having recreational property here. So the decision is, what shall that recreational property be? I think that the numbers that were presented, and certainly I have no doubt Mr. McDougall would be happy to supply council with the numbers that went to Parks and Rec Committee last week, would suggest right now that baseball is the one that's in need. We obviously are aware that soccer is growing, but we have to balance out the desires of all our residents, of all the groups, which is always a challenge. Anybody who sat at this table realizes the challenge that is. And we do our best, and as Councillor Thompson again said, we do have to plan for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Dawn. I'll just, Ms. McDougall, will we be able to get the graphs and everything and the information for council next week?
Certainly, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Abel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, fellow councillors, Mayor Daw. Do we have an outdoor sports field strategy?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we just did a Parks and Recreation Master Plan review, and that identified the priority uses or the needs within the community.
So
Councillor Abel?
thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just looking at Waterloo, and they have the same problem we have. They have an outdoor sports field strategy that is linked closely with the community culture and recreational service master plan and culture plan and the Waterloo Park master plan. So in addition to a master plan, they have what they call an outdoor sports field strategy. And they have an implementation strategy, and it's regarding baseball diamonds, and it's a great read. But what they do is they have public engagement regarding community baseball diamonds. They look at their existing, they have a focus on sports groups, key partnerships, and developing strategies around the future development. They have a 5-year plan. They identify a strategy, and they look at mixed use. So they talk about festival fields and converting them into baseball diamonds. What they do is they look at ball diamonds and try and enhance them and put a second diamond in there. They have a strategy going forward. And it also includes soccer and the other fields as well. I would think that we would have one of those going forward. So if we don't have one, I would recommend, and probably it's a notice of motion, that we bring one of those forward in the future. But it's interesting how they do it, and the community engagement. They have several of them before they bring it to council, and then they get a collective agreement, and everyone agrees on what's going on. We have Copeland Park, through you, Mr. Chair, is a well-used baseball diamond in my area in a floodplain. I'll confirm that through you to Mr. Downey.
Mr. Downey? Copeland Park?
I'm trying to figure whether it's in the floodplain or not. I can't say for sure whether
Can
it
we
is
get
or it
that
isn't.
answer for next week?
Absolutely, I can
Councillor Abel?
guarantee it is. And it's been well used. It's also the best toboggan hill in Aurora, so the one that we grew up with. So the idea is if you have a great full-use ball diamond like Copeland, which could take an adult, you could convert that with a couple of lights. I know lights affect neighbors, but I've only heard one complaint at the town park, and that's because when it's not being used, the lights remain on until late in the evening. And they say, it would be great if you had a coordinated schedule that when it's not being permitted, the lights would go off at 9. They're not always used into the evening. And so that's the only comment I've ever heard about lights in a heavy residential area. People, if they're on a backyard of a major park, like Machel Park or Town Park, they know there's activities. I mean, goodness, they know that when we have the Rip Fest and the entertainment's on there, I understand we can hear that all the way down into Henderson and beyond. So they are accustomed to activity going on, and if ballparks are going on during the summer months, so be it. And if the lights aren't being used, of course, if there's more ballparks, then they probably aren't going as late into the evening, so there's probably not as much of an impact. So again, the idea of the economic impact on taking employment lands and converting it into park, because this is something we had envisioned on the director's wish list, to me, I would value the impact economically of that conversion. And I think we need an overall strategy. But I'm not going to convince this council today at this time, and I don't want to be tagged again for election speak, but I'm not in favor of this because this is, again, going to be a very expensive use of taxpayers' money. And we could go in and make those 2 ball diamonds in Machel at a fraction of the cost. It's land we already own. We could do it for probably $1 million because the parking's already there, service is already there. And as far as using Moraine, we do allow residential. We have an OP 34, which only says 2 residents per acre, but they do get electricity there. And if we had to put some lights and a road in, they put roads into the Moraine, I think it's worth us lobbying and at least investigating with the province and saying to them the need for urban growth in our area. We will not affect the permeability of the land. Could we consider a couple of fields strategically and see if that would work? But it has to be part of a strategy. We can't just assume no. But I would think that if we're allowing homes and roads and electricity then they might allow a drive-in to a couple of fields that allow our children to grow and play on the green belt land. They allow farming and tractors on there, so I mean, I don't think it's unreasonable to approach the province with that in mind.
We're at time, Councillor Abel.
I have 10 minutes, Mr. Chair.
The first time, 10 minutes. Second time, 5 minutes. Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Abel. Councillor Tom?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just wanted to clarify some of the comments made by Councillor Abel. So Councillor Abel, in both his first 10 minutes and second 5 minutes, indicated that he is in favor of selling the Hallmark lands and converting them back to employment. Can I just ask Councillor Abel if I characterized his remarks correctly?
Correct.
Okay. I think then perhaps, Councillor Abel, I find it interesting that you would mention that because on johnabel.ca, under the heading The Future of Aurora, you indicate that, quote, I will provide sports facilities / fields at the Hallmark lands. So I think that your position might have changed since your website went up, and that's fine, but I just think that for clarity and for, you know, well, it says I will provide sports facilities and fields at the Hallmark lands, G.W. Williams and the new Bayview High School to be built.
Read the headline.
The future of Aurora, it says. So I'm just pointing...
Councillor Abel?
Councillor Abel, I'm just simply mentioning that your position has changed and it's public and... Okay, so I look forward to your updating of your website then, that you will be selling the Hallmark lands and converting them to employment. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Tom. I believe everyone has gone twice. Councillor Humphreys, would you like to go one more time? No? Okay. I'm just going to make a couple of comments. I'll probably save a little bit more for next week, but some of the comments I heard around the table as far as converting or repurposing Machel and converting those into baseball diamonds, if we did that, we would lose a soccer pitch. Is that correct, Mr. Downey?
Through your chair, you're talking about Machel Park?
Yes.
That's correct.
So when it comes to that, I wouldn't be in favor of that because I wouldn't want to take away from one organization and give to another. I think that doesn't make sense. As far as selling the lands, if we sell these lands, yes, we would make a profit at this point, but we have to buy lands. And the price has gone up to buy lands. So we really, realistically, wouldn't be making a profit. We would actually be losing a valuable piece of land that we could actually convert into sports fields and provide more services for our residents. So I wouldn't be in favor of that. The part that does concern me is that we throw out a lot of buzzwords, and one of them is collaboration. And to me, collaboration hasn't been a strong suit when it comes to dealing with our organizations, and not from a staff point of view. I'm just talking overall, because I think our staff does a wonderful job. And I think everyone at the end of the day has to remember that we're not individual organizations. It's not about baseball. It's not about soccer. It's not about swimming. It's not about football. It's about Aurora. We're a community. We should all be working together to figure out how do we move forward for the future of our residents and provide the opportunities for our kids and for our seniors. So I think that's what we have to remember, and that's what we need to look at. And I think moving forward, as I've said many times at this council table, sometimes we need to lock ourselves in a room and not come out until we've figured it all out. And I think that's what we need to do with our organizations is let's all get together, let's all sit down, let's all have those conversations and figure out how do we move forward in the best interest of our community. And I think that's how we move forward productively and proactively. So I look forward to those conversations, and I'm looking forward to the information next week that will be provided from Ms. McDougall. So I will call the vote at this time. So all those in favor? All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. You can stay if you like. We've got lots of items to go. Next item, R1, moved by Councillor Tom, seconded by Councillor Humphreys. Any comments or questions on this one? Enhanced recreation facility advertising and sponsorship programs. Councillor Tom. Oh, sorry, Councillor Thompson. You okay? Okay, Councillor Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'd just like to thank Robin for her work on this, and we had a brief discussion about this. I think it was right after you came on with the town, and I think that Aurora has definitely been moving in the right direction with respect to advertising and sponsorship revenue. It's I think a great source of income for the town, and I'm pleased to see that there will be, a more engaged and I don't want to say it wasn't professional now, but a more professional approach to facility sponsorship and advertising, and certainly it's an improvement on what's happening now, even though we have been doing better, and I think the report bears that out as well in terms of the increased revenue. So I'm in favor of this, and I do appreciate Robin's work in this regard, and thank her very much.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Through you to, I guess, Ms. McDougall, one of the things you're proposing is on page 7 that the town will offer 6 months of free advertising for new businesses. It kind of concerns me, so I'd like to hear the rationale behind the offer of 6 months free advertising for new businesses.
Ms. McDougall, sorry.
Thank you, that's okay. Thank you. Through Mr. Chair. Certainly, our team has been working with, certainly through the Economic Development and Chamber of Commerce, looking at opportunities as it relates to our strategic plan about collaboration and opportunities to help with our new businesses or new owners of businesses, and opportunities as it relates to advertising within our facilities. And we have found at some cases, some businesses are a little gun shy, I'll call it, to step up and actually purchase some advertising opportunities. So trying to create that incentive to get them to get engaged, understand how it works, understand that the return on investment, what kind of information or interest they're going to gain from the advertising, allows them to get that exposure and see what that interest is, and then hopefully built into that opportunity is the rollover of an agreement. So it was an idea of creating that incentive to get the businesses interested in purchasing advertising space. And it's just for the new businesses. They have to be members of the chamber or new owners of businesses. It's just trying to help generate that availability for new business.
Councillor Thompson.
Through you, are there any other conditions associated with it?
It's a 6-month agreement, and other than that, it just has to be 2-for-1 of an equal or lesser value. So they can't have a rink board advertisement and then for the same value have, the other way around. So a wall advertisement, which is a smaller value, and then for that they get their free rink board. It has to be 2 of the same valuations.
So I guess just for your consideration, but here's a scenario where you have a long-standing business who's advertised for many, many years. A competitor comes into town and you give the competitor 6 months free advertisement opposite a long-standing business. So how would that long-standing business receive that? So just, you may give that some consideration, that maybe, give some thought around who that new business is and whether or not we have existing advertising in those places that may or may not be viewed as competition. Because if I'm a long-standing business and I've had a 10-year relationship with the town year after year, maybe I'm okay with it, but maybe I'm not.
Ms. McDougall, did you want to answer that, or?
No, it's a very fair point, and I'll certainly speak with the staff about that.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Thompson?
Nope, that's my point.
Thank you very much, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Kim?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Ms. McDougall, for the last few months you've been here. You've made a significant impact. Your presence is well felt. And I was doing some research on this, and it shows that the Canadian Municipal Benchmarking Survey on Sponsorship and Naming Rights, and it revealed that 66% of all Canadian municipalities are involved in some kind of corporate sponsorship partnership, and almost 1 in 2 municipalities have been engaged in that for well over 5 years. So it's great that we're moving in the right direction. But that said, I know that Aurora, we pride ourselves in being a little bit different from other municipalities, and we're staunchly very proud of our town. And I do believe that we do need to communicate our intentions of corporate sponsorship, because when we implement a sponsorship or advertising program, we got to balance the benefits of increased revenues and the user experience. And just like, whether it be transparent garbage bags or any other project that seems practical and commonsensical, sometimes it's not received well. So I think, if we could prepare the towns, I don't want to take it for granted because, there's another survey out there that states that 86% of Canadians in general are okay with corporate sponsorship. But I don't want to take that for granted. Certainly if we put a big, craft baseball diamond in the middle of Town Park, some of those residents might not like that big logo there. So I think it's important that we leverage our communications team and marketing team and ensure that the public is well informed of our intentions regarding advertising and sponsorship. And through you, Mr. Chair, to Ms. McDougall, there's a lot in this arena. There's a lot of partnerships with local organizations, activities, whether it be RibFest or that's a town function, but there's other activities and organizations where we lease out space, whether it be the soccer association or AKBA or any other organization. Have you looked into partnering with them with regards to advertising and sponsorship so we can share in some of the profits? Because it's great, having, part-time or full-time coordinators to look after this, but, I've only been here a short time compared to most of you, but I've quickly realized that, our town was based and built on volunteers, and there's a lot of volunteers in these organizations that we can leverage for them to reach out to the corporate communities. And essentially you have a couple hundred, maybe even more, salespeople to help leverage off of. And if there's some kind of a revenue sharing opportunity, these organizations already come to us anyway, and I'm sure they would rather earn their revenues as opposed to get if I can use the term, handout from the town. So if you could look into any opportunities where we can partner with, the Sport Auroras or AKBA or soccer, where we can help them generate revenues and junior hockey. That'd be really exciting.
Ms. McDougall?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, if I might just add to or try to answer some of that comment or question you may have, Councillor Kim. We do have a partnership with the Junior A hockey team as it relates to advertising opportunities, where the rink boards are shared amongst the municipality. They have the ability to go out and sell some boards if they can, and the town does the same. We are proposing in this report a similar relationship for their outdoor facilities, but for the reason that right now we, for indoor, major sports youth groups that are inside, we do offer free office space, where other municipalities charge for office space. So the inside user groups are getting a free rental rate, as an example. We don't have that ability out for our outdoor sports. We don't have outdoor facilities or facilities for them to have as an office site for them. So alternatively, we're looking at an opportunity for them to potentially have some revenue generation as a relationship to sharing in those sponsorship opportunities. But as we put it as a little note here, to a maximum value of what a rental rate might be. So we will have to work on an agreement as it relates to how much they can do, trying to be fair to those inside user groups as well. So there's still work to be done as it relates to the details, but we are looking at opportunities to work with our user groups for outdoor sports as we are proposing to expand this program to the outdoor facilities.
Councillor Kim?
Yeah, that's wonderful to hear. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kim. Councillor Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And this report was prepared by John Furman, who is Manager of Business Support. And to me, this is, Mr. Furman is very good at his job. And to me, this is almost completely a business report. And I strongly object under the sponsorship enhancements recommendations to expand on page 5, to expand sponsorship assets to include outdoor rec facilities, including but not limited to. I'm okay with baseball diamonds and soccer fields. Not sure about the dog park, but a definite no for the splash pads, the picnic shelters and gazebos, the trail system signage, the playgrounds. I really do not want to turn those public spaces into an advertising opportunity. I agree with Councillor Kim. We have to take into consideration the user experience. All of these people pay taxes. Do they really want to go to a playground and see advertising? With respect to, the baseball diamonds, the actual facilities, the baseball diamonds, the soccer fields, to me, that's something else. We've been advertising in the hockey arena for a long time. To me, that seems to be kind of part of the established way of doing things. But really, do I want to go for a walk on the trail system and see an advertising sign? And then we have on the next page bleachers, chairs, tables, trash receptacles, electrical shacks, all other outdoor structures. I think we really need to think this through and know what it is that we do want to accomplish and at what cost to the community experience. So that would be my comment. I agree with Councillor Thompson's comment about a fair playing field for our older advertisers. I think that's all that I have to say now. I know Councillor Tom brought this to us at the beginning of the term, his council term, and I do think we need to make better use of our advertising space and also look at what space we give away for free. And there are areas, when I'm in some of the rec facilities, there are areas that seem to me that we could utilize those a little bit better. Extreme thanks to Mr. Furman. He has done an amazing job. I just can't vote for this policy this proposed policy the way it stands.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Abel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's a great report. And could I ask through you the panels that we see in the SARC? They're all on the walls, all throughout, usually at just above head level. Are they going to remain as part of the advertising? Is there not that will?
I see a nod yes. Did you want to, Ms. McDougall?
Sorry, just to be clear and everyone can hear, is that yes, those panels in the SARC or in other facilities that are framed, yes, they would be remained. This is more expansion of the program and including more of the outdoor assets.
Have you given any consideration of trying an alternate way of advertising instead of using those? I find them a bit cluttery and tacky looking, and I've had comments to the same. But I guess if it's going to remain as part of the revenue stream, I think I brought this up before, and they said the lease was up for a year, and at that time it might be explored for alternate. And I talked to another marketing person, and they gave me a couple of suggestions that might be as effective or attractive to advertisers rather than putting those up on the walls. So I don't know if you thought of any of that. Did you want to respond through you, Mr. Chair?
Ms. McDougall?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Certainly our team is always looking at alternatives. The lease agreements are on an annual basis as it relates to those spaces. For example, wall wraps, they're a little less intrusive as far as a frame standing out and you're going from an advertising block to an advertising block. Some of the wall wraps look a little more attractive, so that's one thing we're researching and trying to expand on. Alternatively as well, inside we're looking at video TV screens and then scrolling through an advertisement. So we are investigating those opportunities as well. So
that's great.
Councillor Abel?
That's great. So under the financial, and first of all, I really appreciate all the ideas and options that you put out there. It's a very complete sort of package that I find valuable when you're given lots of options and to get an idea of the scope and possibilities and opportunities. And so, you know, as Councillor Gardner said, baseball and soccer, when you watch that on TV or if you're a live event, there's lots of advertising going on, field level, of course, on the Videotrons, wrapped around on the arenas at certain levels. So that's the first step, and I think that's a great opportunity. Some of them, I think if you're going to advertise trails and stuff, it's probably going to be far different. It might be a wood sculpture or naming rights or something along those lines. So I'm sure you're going to weigh all that into consideration. I have no problem moving ahead with that. But it's the financial part of it. And I'm just looking at the end when at the end of the report, and it's on page 8. So there has, and I think it's since Councillor Tom brought the motion forward to look at facilities for advertising, we've seen a great increase, 625%. It's a big increase over a little amount of money is what it is. So the bottom line is that we've hired someone to go and do this, and to offset, we have to pay them, so we take the revenue from the advertising. So have we got 8,000 plus for, is that what I'm reading in the last line?
Ms. McDougall?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, the advertising revenue is an estimate to help offset, but that's keeping in mind that's from a July 1st start date. We have a part-time staff person now that is already preparing and providing the services that we have to date. This is an expansion of that portfolio to be a full-time. So it's taking them from a 24-hour-a-week salary to a 35-hour-a-week salary. And the revenue sources there is just an estimate from a July 1st, half of a year, to get us through to the end of the year. There's a lot of potential with this opportunity that we're being conservative for 2018. As we didn't, knowing this report had to come back to council from an approval perspective, we were being conservative. So in 2019, it's spiked, it's gone up more, and then we anticipate even further progress in years to come.
Councillor Abel?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we will be moving a part-time to a full-time complement plus benefits.
Ms. McDougall?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, this was approved at budget to do that in 2018. So it is taking them from part-time to full-time, including benefits.
Thank you. I just want to be sure of that. And as far as the user groups that are using facilities for free, I appreciate the Tigers and Aurora Minor League. It's right in the arena, and so it makes sense to have it there. But do we not provide space for Sport Aurora?
Ms. McDougall?
Thank you. Through Mr. Chair, yes, we do have an agreement with Sport Aurora, and they do have office space here at the Town Hall.
So,
Councillor Abel?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So would that be another group we could add to a fifth group?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Councillor Abel. Mayor Dodd?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I echo Councillor Gartner's concerns with respect to advertising on some of the items, and I appreciate that we're always looking for additional revenue sources. But I think there's also been a lot of pushback in the elementary school level in terms of having advertising. So I mean, if you're going to come back with some issues around to address Councillor Thompson's concerns about the 6-month, could we look at the concept of advertising in the splash pad, the skateboard park, picnic shelters, trail signs? I don't want to put words in Councillor Gartner's mouth, but I think some things should be sacrosanct. And I wouldn't really want to see advertising in the splash pad, as an example. So if you could bring back a bit more information on that, I would really appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mayor Daw. Councillor Tom?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I think it's good feedback that we're getting around the council table on this, and I certainly welcome looking further at 6 months free for businesses. Whether we just charge them like everyone else and get the revenue up front, or try to provide a sort of an economic development benefit for new businesses. That's something looking at further I'm not opposed to. And I also think that some of the mix for sponsorship could also be looked at, taking the comments of Mayor Daw and Councillor Gartner. But I think there should be a distinction, unless I'm reading it incorrectly. Sponsorship and advertising aren't quite the same thing. Advertising refers more to, like, say, ringboard advertising, posters, door wraps, or fence advertisement that you're proposing in the baseball diamonds, for example, where sponsorship is more, sponsoring the splash pad. So it would be the, the Tim Hortons splash pad. And so again, I'm not opposed to looking at those if we don't think it's appropriate. Certainly trail system, I know we named it after Tim Jones and Klaus, and I think that I really like that aspect of our trail system. So perhaps it's not appropriate to then sponsor them as well, or the signage. So I'm not opposed to looking at some of the mix, but I just think the idea of sponsorship is not necessarily to start slapping advertising all over them. It's just perhaps to have a naming rights for the splash pad or tennis courts or and so forth to generate extra revenue. But certainly not opposed to looking at that if my council colleagues find that to be important, and certainly would hopeful that wouldn't hold them up from approving this report. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Tom. I'll let Ms. McDougall, because I believe it's the same kind of thing as if you want to speak to the difference between sponsorship and advertising. Thank you, Ms. McDougall.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, I do want to clarify sponsorship opportunities versus advertising opportunities. So on page 5 of the report, staff are proposing and considering what Councillor Taub is recommending or suggesting, that a sponsorship would be sponsoring an asset where there's a business, a corporation, or an individual that has an asset or interest in that asset to be named after something. So it could be like I mentioned, the Tim Hortons splash pad, or the, country style trail, something like that. That's more of a naming of an asset. As it relates to advertising, flipping to page 6, so that is, we're trying to clarify what we're considering and which assets we would consider where business ads could be placed. So they're a little bit different. Ads would be a little shorter term. They're usually like within a 1-year term. Sponsorship might be 3 to 5 year term. So it identifies a little bit of a difference, but council at their discretion can identify to staff assets that are off the radar, do not consider, and that's something we'd be open to. We can certainly bring back more information though to help this discussion next week.
Thank you for the clarification, Ms. McDougall. Councillor Gartner. Actually, Councillor Thompson, did you speak already? Yes, you did. Councillor Gartner.
Thanks to Councillor Tom and Ms. McDougall for that clarification. So with respect to, we're talking about naming rights and sponsorship. I found that sometimes it becomes advertising. I guess it depends how it's done. It needs to be handled sensitively. I don't think I'd like to go for a walk on the country style trail. I mean,
are they providing the coffee?
Maybe the donuts I'm more interested in, but so
the healthy ones,
of course. So I am swayed a little bit by what you've both said, but I'm still not that comfortable, and I don't know, I kind of want to go to a splash pad and I don't want to know that it's the Tim Hortons splash pad. It's my splash pad, I paid for it. So with respect to page 6 that you've mentioned, I mean, what I saw under number 2 was wall wraps. That's kind of a big deal. So how do you envision that?
Ms. McDougall?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, the wall wraps at an outdoor facility may be within the electrical building, the buildings that are out there, the elements that are used for washroom, side wall on a washroom as you're approaching the washroom. Or a wall wrap could be on a shelter that is adjacent to the soccer pitch or the baseball diamond. So could be along the benches that the kids sit on. There's a variety of things that the wall wraps could be wrapped around. It's predominantly the inside, obviously needing walls, needing assets to wrap, but that's what wall wraps would be intended for. It's more of your inside, expanding that opportunity from the inside of the facilities.
Councilor Gardner?
Thank you. For digital displays?
Ms.
Thank you,
McDougall?
Mr. Chair. The digital displays, again, that's an expansion on the inside, indoor facility options. Outside would be a challenge as it relates to vandalism. So it's something we'd have to be monitoring of where that digital display could be. So in this case, we're looking to expand that opportunity and new projects for indoor facilities.
Councilor Gardner?
Oh, thank you. So we're not talking outdoor. But even so, what would a digital display look like on even indoor? What would it look like?
Ms. McDougall?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The digital display, right now, as an example, there are TVs in the facilities as you walk in that have advertisements on it. It would have the schedule for the day of the facilities. Similar size of a TV monitor would be mounted on a wall or a location where the user groups would pass by. It might be next to the kiosk of the customer service, but it would be a scrolling advert. So the businesses can buy ads that would just rotate through advertisements.
Councilor Gardner?
Thank you. It's all very interesting, and we want to bring in more money. And again, we've always tried, and Councillor Tom challenged us at the beginning of this term. But I still can't support it as it is. To me, it's just too much, too invasive. And I'd also want to know what the rollout is, because, I mean, maybe little by little, but just to have all of this appear. I'm sure I'll get calls from residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gardner. Councilor Thompson?
Thank you. Just briefly, I do support the intent of it, and I think that overall it's a good program. My comments really, and I do agree with the comments with regards to there are times where it may not be appropriate to sell the naming rights or sponsorship for the splash pad, but there also may be times for all I'm looking for is some policies and or some procedures around, what is appropriate and what isn't to help with the decision making. That's all.
Thank you, Councilor Thompson. Any other comments or questions on this one? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. We will take our, is it 10-minute health break? 10-minute health break now, and we'll get back to it after that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got quorum, right? Pardon?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we got 5. Yep, so we'll start, we're on R2. Yeah, Mayor Daw moves it, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Any comments or questions on this one? Menorah lighting ceremony? Seeing none, call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. R3, boardwalk at Quick Copy Trail. Someone to move the recommendation? Moved by Mayor Daw, seconded by Councillor Kim. Any comments or questions on this one? Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Through you to either Ms. McDougall or Ms. Downey, I'm not sure who's best to answer this. Mr. Downey is raising his hand. And I apologize, I wanted to reach out to you prior to this, but just going back to where the trail is situated now, I'm trying to remember how we last left it. Did we not say that it would go back up onto Yonge Street and run along the sidewalk? Is that where we left off? Because we've been discussing this trail off and on for a few years, and so I think it was the decision at that time to make it link up with the sidewalk, was it not? Or maybe you can fill me in.
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the project was to proceed in 2 phases. Council has approved a trail parallel to the sidewalk within the regional road allowance. The reason we built the trail in 2 phases, so going north into the Willow Farm Trail, was not north, but I apologize, west, was we didn't have regional approval to build the trail within the regional road allowance. We have now received that. We have now been in communications with St. Andrews College, who were having some objection with regards to our trail. However, now that they have purchased the property, they are looking at some coordinated development of those lands between themselves and the town. And they've asked us to consider a boardwalk in that area. So we have regional approval. We have capital funding from council to build the trail off-road parallel to the sidewalk on Yonge Street. And we are now asking for those funds to be supplemented or increased in order to accommodate a boardwalk in that same location.
Councillor Thompson?
Thank you. So just so I'm clear, so present configuration has it on-road. This request is to move it off-road and build the boardwalk. Is that accurate?
Present approval has it off-road. We just haven't constructed it yet. So the trail presently goes onto the sidewalk and you walk on the sidewalk. But that is not what is approved by council.
Yes, I'm just trying to get the increase, which is really for the boardwalk piece.
Correct. Going from an off-road trail to an off-road boardwalk.
Thank you.
Councillor Thompson? You good? Any other comments or questions on this one? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. R5, application for removing of holding provisions. Can I get a motion to move the recommendation? Sorry, Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Kim. Any comments or questions on this one? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. R6, amendments to the Central Lake Ontario Toronto Region and Credit Valley Source Protection Plan. Can I get someone to move the recommendation? Moved by Mayor Daw, seconded by Councillor Humphreys. Any comments or questions on this one? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. R8, standard funding agreements. Can I get someone to move the recommendation? Moved by Councillor Tom, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Any comments or questions on this one? Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. My real question really is just in regards to the existing agreement for the Aurora Cultural Center. Are you asking then to redo their agreement so that it becomes a standard funding agreement, or are we going to leave it alone? Because I really don't want to go down that path again.
Mr. CAO?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no, we wouldn't be redoing that agreement. This is designed as a template document, a template agreement that we would use in those situations where council decides to give money to a group, either on request or as part of a budget process. And in the past, there's been occasion where really all we've had is the motion of council to back up the writing of the check, and we've had very little recourse as a municipality to in terms of some of the accountability factors, and this is just a standard form we'd like to use for all agreements that don't require something more sophisticated.
No, and I'm fully supportive of formalizing the process and standardizing some of these things. We've been talking about it forever. I just wanted to make sure that we weren't looking to redo some of the existing ones and create an issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Any other comments or questions on this one? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. All right, well, we're done items, and we don't deal with notices of motion this week. New business. I will start to my right. Mayor Daw. Nope. Councillor Gardner.
I'm going to say none that I can remember.
You can always bring it up next week if you like.
But I would like to, the mayor and I were, I think it was just, the mayor and I and Councillor Kim attended the Scouting Awards last night. Because, I think we really need to be so grateful for all the volunteers. It's incredible, and all these little kids, and they're learning such wonderful things, including how to be social.
You are correct, Councillor Gardner. And I just want to ask the three of you, did they teach you how to quiet a crowd?
Did they teach us how to what?
Quiet a crowd?
Oh.
I always thought that would be useful sometimes here in this chamber. So. Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Councillor Thompson, new business?
I don't know if it's so much new business, but I certainly wanted to say what a great performance was put on this weekend with the Temple of Fame play. It was a fantastic job done by staff, by volunteers, one of who is here tonight. One of the actors, Mr. Downey, did a great job, as did all of the performers. But I also think that it's great. It was funded both by the government as well as the museum put on a great little exhibit. I hope everybody had a chance to go visit. I really enjoyed the performance. I don't know if all members of council had an opportunity to make it out to it, but I did see some of you there, and I think that I look forward to more feature-length performances.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Abel. Councillor Humphreys?
Yes. To you, Mr. Chair, and I just wanted to add to Councillor Thompson. So I had a really wonderful time at Temple of Fame performance. I had enjoyed high tea with my mother-in-law for Mother's Day. It was so wonderful, and we met some lifelong friends that we didn't realize were going to be there. So it was really amazing. We had front row seats. Well, we forced our way through and got front row seats. But I just wanted to acknowledge a couple of things. I wanted to thank Shauna White for helping, put this together. I mean, this is a play that happened 100 years ago, and it was really another historic moment. I want to also thank Corey Clark, Sarah Moyle, and all the volunteers. I think there's over 25. I didn't realize one of our directors, i.e. Mr. Downey.
Gentleman number one, that would be it.
Gentleman number one had such a great voice. I mean, wow, great, amazing. And I have to say, Councillor Maracus, your wife was, I have to say, I know but she, incredible, beautiful voice, acting, and all the volunteers. It was really special. It was very empowering. It was very, I'm just thrilled I was there. For like a number of reasons, and including realizing how many things have not changed for women over 100 years, but how many things are still, moving in the right direction. So I just want to thank everyone again. It was great, and monumental experience. I'm glad I didn't miss it, and really, really enjoyed it. And also, as a reminder, Farmers Market, again, 8 to 1 this weekend. Really, really wonderful. Don't forget, May 26th is the official grand opening. There'll be lots of prizes and giveaways, and I think a very special cake for whoever can make it there early enough before it runs out. And then 11 o'clock is sort of special ceremonial welcomings from mayor and other dignitaries that will be invited to the stage. So thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Humphreys. Councillor Tom. Councillor Kim.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that Pause in the Sark was, I thought was a success. You know, if you were there that day, and I think the CAO said there were over 500. I think there was like 350 was the count at noon, and a lot of dogs. It was a great way to showcase some of our local vendors, and you know, people wonder, you know, can we support 4 or 5 pet shops? And based on the number of dogs, certainly is a possibility. Through you, Mr. Chair, if staff wouldn't mind just providing just a little bit of summary of, you know, how it went. Is this a possibility that perhaps it's going to be an annual thing, as opposed to the previous 2 years where it was held outdoors? Just a little, you know, fact sheet on some of the wins and some of the challenges. That'd be great. Oh, and how many were? Do you know how many? Through you, Mr. Chair, how many dogs are registered or got registered? Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I don't have that information today, but I will certainly provide you with the fact sheet, yes.
Great, thank you.
And some outcomes.
Thank you. I just have one. I mean, since it seems like we're doing a little bit of public service announcements, so I'll just throw in it also about the Temple of Fame. I was there for all 3 performances. I think it was amazing. But I think the one thing that I think everyone took away is at the end they were looking to crown who is worthy. And at the end, they came out, and the cast and the goddess pronounced that everyone is worthy, and that we're all worthy, and it's going to take all of us to work together to make our community better. And so I think that's definitely words that we should live by. So I thank the cast, the crew, everyone for the incredible job that they did. And so that's it. So with that, I will ask for a motion to adjourn. Oh, Councillor Kim. Yeah, okay, no problem.
I just wanted to say that I didn't make it to the...
Your wife, Carol, did, yes.
And Carol did. And she mentioned that Mr. Downey had a great voice, and she didn't know that you had it in you. But a great performance.
I'm just happy a goddess is no longer running my life. You could say that.
Thank you. With that, I will ask for a motion to adjourn. Or maybe you should. I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Kim. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone. It's a good meeting.